Okay, so I thought I'd give you my tuppence on the Chris Kaba fatal shooting incident. Now, the photograph you see in front of you is of Chris Kaba, and this is the narrative they are trying to portray or to project to you. And that character they're trying to sell you is of a wholesome, butter wouldn't melt, law-abiding Mr. Nice Guy, when the truth was rather different. You see, Chris Kaba was a career criminal. And according to the Mail Online newspaper, he was suspected of being among 5 men in a nightclub gun attack. And what we do know about that day when he got slotted by the Met Police firearms officer was that he was driving a car, the owner of which was wanted by the police on firearms charges. Now, Chris Kaba, who also had a history of firearms offences, was told multiple times to get out of the car. He didn't listen to the police, he stayed in his car. And instead of doing as he was asked, he tried to drive off and ram the police cars. And it was at this moment he was shot dead. Now, the Met Police firearms officer who slotted him has been taken off duty and been effectively thrown to the wolves by the Met Police hierarchy. And because of this treatment of him, other Met Police firearms officers are planning a mass downing of rifles or guns and weapons if the Chris Kaba murder suspect is identified. Now, let's be clear here. The reason the Met Police hierarchy have thrown this officer with an exemplary record, by the way, according to social media and the mainstream media, is simply to stop the black community from rioting. I mean, we could potentially have another George Floyd moment here on our hands. So, of course, I am on the side of the Met Police firearms officers here because of their job, and I've kind of been there. Because I served in Ulster for 3 years, Northern Ireland, and it got to the point where we weren't even allowed to look through the sights of our weapons, the old SA-80 back in the day, because Irish Republicans could take a photo of us doing so and then superimpose it to make it look like we are aiming our rifles at children, which is what they did. They were very good at propaganda. And I also remember the warrant officers and sergeants' mess of the Royal Welsh Fusiliers, which I served, talking amongst themselves and saying if it came to it, they would never ever discharge their rifle, no matter what the circumstances. And to be honest, I don't blame them, because literally a few years previously, this was in the mid to late 90s, a member of the parachute regiment was arrested, charged, and I believe he was jailed as well until he was released, because he discharged his weapon when a young lad in a car drove through the checkpoint he was manning without stopping. Of course, because of the situation in Ulster at the time, the para aimed his rifle and shot the lad dead. And I remember this guy, this particular member of the parachute regiment, he was our PT instructor in Phase 2 training in Catterick, and he was gloating about who he was, which I found to be quite distasteful. I thought to myself, what an arrogant pig of a man anyway. So because he was thrown to the wolves for doing his job, I remember the senior NCOs in my regiment having that conversation. And then we come to the arming of the whole police service here in the UK. Now, I appreciate this country isn't the United States, and it's a totally different culture here. Now, I'm all for arming the police, but the right police. We need anti-terrorist police. We need that special police officer to be trained to take life in order to save innocent people. I don't think all police officers should be armed in this country. For example, some British police officers are right stupid, irresponsible numpties, aren't they? And to be quite frank, I wouldn't trust these people with a potato gun or a stick or a Nerf gun for that matter, because they are so bloody stupid. And I do wonder how the hell some of them got into the police force in the first place anyway. That gaggle of police officers who arrested the young girl with mental health problems simply for calling the female police officer a lesbian. Can you imagine if they were armed, or if that female police officer was armed? Now, that little girl was, or she wasn't a little girl, she was a teenager. She was arrested because that police officer took offence and got quite angry. Now, can you imagine if she had a pistol? Would she have shot that girl? We don't know, do we? But are we prepared to take that chance of arming every police officer? I'm not so sure. But this ridiculous notion of disarming our entire police force or police service is a gift to violent terrorists and violent criminals like Chris Kaba. Now, the Met Police Commissioner has visited Chris Kaba's family twice, but by all accounts hasn't even visited this Met firearms officer once. And Suella Braverman, MP, she said it best when she said, and I quote, "We depend on our brave firearms officers to protect us from the most dangerous and violent in society. In the interest of public safety, they have to make split-second decisions under extraordinary pressures," end quote. And like I said, unless you've been in that job or situation, you shouldn't really be judging the fella. And we should be giving him a lot of slack. And if the establishment, the top brass, are going to keep throwing officers to the wolves, charging them, imprisoning them for doing their jobs, then I don't blame them for downing tools, to be honest with you. These firearms officers, they're not just picked out of a police force and put into a firearms team and given a rifle like that on a whim. These people are selected, they go through training, and it's a highly specialised trade within the police service. And I'd say the death of Chris Kaba should be blamed on the person whose lifestyle choice led to that moment. And there we go, that's my tuppence. I hope you like. Please let me know what you think in the comments. And until the next time, Roger Trout.